And after he got his death paid back, Pete Kaufman liked my dad so well that he took him into partnership.
You don't know the name of the factory by chance, do you?
I did, but I can't.
It's up around Lamont, you say?
Yeah, around the Darlington area. It would be more toward from Lamont if you turned right, and I don't know that I'm right, but I think it might be County Trunk D, and that would take you over to the road to Fayette or Yellowstone. It was on that road. On the right, it was on the right-hand side. In fact, I could drive by and show you where it was at one time.
All right, and then was he on some other factories then before?
No. Then what happened was Pete was such a big, strong man, and at that time they were getting. I remember Dad telling that they get salt in wooden barrels, like you get a 50-gallon barrel of wine. Mm-hmm. And old Pete would just take that barrel and throw it on his back and walk down into the cheese plant down. I guess he had steps that went down into the cellar and walk her down there and set her deck down on the floor and nothing to it. But anyhow, then Pete's wife died, and I'm assuming that at that time I don't think they looked into it, but I think she had cancer. And they had 3 children: Peter, Robert, and Clara. And then Pete remarried, and then Pete got gangrene. I don't know how, but he got gangrene in his leg, and I guess he was aware of the fact that he was going to die. And this other wife that he married was sort of I don't know, it wasn't much good in what they considered, she was no good, see, sort of on the wild side, I guess. So Pete asked my dad if he'd raise his 3 children if something happened to him. And that's what my folks did. They raised the Kaufman children. And then Dad evidently sold out there. And then he went and made cheese at the Lamont cheese factory.
Oh, we're nice people.
Yeah. And one morning when he got up, the cheese were all on the floor. They're all stinkers. And Dad just put his hat on, walked down the road, and left. Never went back.
Well, that was not uncommon either. That wasn't that uncommon.
No.
When that stuff went bad, it just when they blew
Oh,
up.
but they always had poor milk up in that area. Hunt always had, Grexfield always had trouble making cheese there too, But anyhow, then Dad went and hired out at the Flannery factory. In the meantime, of course, the First World War, he was taken into service, and I think he got as far as Rockford. And then I think the war was over or something like that. And then in the meantime, he got married, and then he bought out, I don't know who he bought out, but he bought out the Flannery factory, made cheese at the Flannery factory. Then he sold out to John Asherman, and he bought out Spring Creek Cheese Factory. That was in the early 30s.
Where was this Free Creek? The Flannery's over around Argyle, right?
Yeah, on County Trunk C. About 3-4 miles out of Argyle, on C going east.
All right, but then this other factory, I didn't quite hear that.
Spring Creek?
Yeah, where's that?
That's down on County Trunk G, down here when you go past Judah, and there's a side road. This is County Trunk G, just before we get to where the tavern is down there, and what you call had a cheese factory, and then he had a nightclub. Can't think of his name right now.
Going towards Broadhead there.
Yeah. And anyhow, you turn right, and about 3 miles down the road on the left-hand side was Spring Creek Cheese Factory. And it's still there, except now it's used as a. Eddie Algie was the last one to make cheese there.
Oh, I see.
And
then when did he go to the Advance then?
well, from there.
From there he went to
They were going to close the Advance, and I think, I'm not too sure, but I think old man Blaser, I think he killed himself or he's going to kill somebody, and everything was going to hell. And Dad is always a great one to go somewhere like that and then try and make it go. But then Dad was down there from
And
I'd
the
say
advance is
1933 to 1947.
And the advance is located,
South of town here on the Hattinger Road, between here and Farnham.
and that's where you grew up, right, Paul?
Basically, I was born when we were at the Flanders factory. And I think Dad, he went to Broadhead in 30, or to Spring Creek Cheese Factory in 1930. In 1932, he bought out the Advance.
What do you remember growing up in the factory? What was your first job?
Well, what I can remember all the places. But my first job probably came when I got down to the Advance. And that was getting up in the morning, washing cheese lids at 4 o'clock, probably 8 years old. And then when the farmers hauled the milk to the factory, my job was to have boiling hot water for them outside and fill a cream can up so they could wash their milking utensils in their milk cans, because they generally filled them all the way and then took them home. But that was my first job.
And they take a can of hot water home with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them did that. Kind of
And the barrel, the old wine barrel, whiskey barrel, that had been cut in half, had your steam pipe and your water pipe come on the outside, and you boil the water outside, summer and winter.
I kind of forgot that, but kind of does reminisce. I remember that Hazel Hagen. Remember that Hazel Gilbertson?
Yeah.
Oh, she'd come in there with that water flowing.
Yeah.
I just got on the road there,
Yeah.
get that old holes and take that hot water.
Yeah.
Home. See,
Yeah.
something that they didn't have at home, the hot water heaters
No.
or that
No.
much water. They had an open stove, and I kind of forgot that part. I'm glad you brought it up, because these are all things in history that we want to record how it was.
Yeah, then when I was 9, if I remember right, I was 9, that's when I started taking in the milk. And most of them had 30-gallon cans. And, you hooked them on with a fork, rolled them up, swung them in and dumped them. Swung them back out and released that old lever, and then once you'd go, you hope you didn't get hit by the handle. That was my next job.
I never saw one with a handle. We had one where you went like this.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, obviously pulled up and down.
Mhm.
Well, there were different versions of them.
Yeah.
Why them Swiss made them that large, I don't know. I never will know. All right, Paul, now you're growing up, and then you started washing cheese, right?
Yep.
And down in Advance, how many cheese rooms? What was your high capacity down there?
6 and maybe a short time, maybe 7, but that was the most, if I remember right. And I started washing cheese when I was a senior in high school, because we had no hired men. Second World War.
And of course, then that was just like lifting weights, right?
Yeah, I weighed 132 pounds, and that summer our cheese averaged 274 pounds a piece. Average for a month of July. But we didn't have enough room, and you had to fill the kettles with milk
Right to the top. Well, it's kind of hard when they filled the lids all the way around, didn't it? Well, anyhow, you were known to be quite a strong man in your day, and I always attributed that to for washing that cheese,
Yeah, that's what it was. But it isn't always strength, it's how you handle it.
Yeah. But what I meant was, you turn around at 200 pounds all
Oh, like nothing, yeah.
You know what I mean? And you can't help but build up muscles, and of course...
Pick them right up off the floor without a lid on. And I can still do it.
Is that right?
Yep.
Well, anyhow, then you played football there which it kind of ended up being your brother-in-law, Danny Bankert.
Yep.
What position did you play then?
I played right end. And I played some different positions, some of the boys, I played from the time I was a freshman. But the coach we had, if you got caught not abiding by the rules and regulations, you weren't on the team anymore. And when our senior year, Danny got hurt with his ankle. And we had won all the games, we had won all the ball games. And so I had to take Danny's place and Paulie Mueller Cheese Supply. He had to take my place, but he couldn't handle it. But he was young, and we lost that game. And but had Danny been there, and we played the poorest team that we would have played all year. We got beat by Edgerton.
No.
But that doesn't make any difference.
But what I'm trying to bring up is here, a lot of these boys that were in the Swiss factories, they developed muscles and muscular and good bodies, and except that you hear someone say that, well, it's the seller of this, but I always felt that it didn't hurt him any, you know what I mean?
Well, like Coach Huddleston was our coach, and I sort of liked him, but he could be he had a, I don't know, he was a boss. And he said to me one day, he said, you know, Dubach, he said, you're a tough son of a gun, but he said, you're not too smart.
Well, who is at that age, right?
Yeah.
All right, then you went from the advance now
To Arthur.
to Arthur. Now, this is from 6 wheels, and what was your capacity up there? At Arthur?
Oh, we probably at different times, but we probably averaged about 18 wheels a day for year round. We'd make it high as 20 to 22, 23 sometimes. And our low was probably 14, 15, something like that. But probably averaged around 18 year
How
round.
many kettles did you have?
We had 20.
20. Flushing, they pour over. Or...
Yeah, we'd have to make over. Yeah.
And then,
Well, you know, by the time we got around to the 20th, we were already taken out.
sure, 20 kettles.
Yeah,
Plenty of
we
time.
started around 3:30 in the morning, and we usually get done around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. And then we turned cheese. Once we started turning cheese.
Okay,
on
I'm
the
gonna bring that up, because this cheese turning, you know, the one-sided cheese. You know,
Yeah.
And I've heard the argument, you know, they said, well, you're gonna have one-sided cheese if you keep turning it over like back and forth, it's not gonna get out. It's not gonna get out. And,
That's a bunch of baloney.
yeah, and you were the first person that I knew that they said they turned it once.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That's all we had time for. We had 6 hired men, and they took every 6 weeks. It was their turn, and I was there, and we would get done. Depending on how things went. Sometimes we had them on the floor. We didn't have enough restroom. But it would be 11:30 would be the earliest we'd get done, and at night, and 12:30, and then at 3:30 I started again.
Those were hard days.
Yeah, we had 5,000 wheels of twists and cellars at all times, And that was so modern to me at that time. That was the first time that we had a toilet inside. We had no down in the making room. We had one upstairs, inside. And we had our grinds were refrigerated. They had to be refrigerated because our factory average year round was 4.4.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And one summer, again in July, I think the average cheese lid used to be 36 inches. Our cheese was so big, we had 500 cheese lids made 42 inches.
Oh, is that right?
Then when we take them out to brine, they were so big and had too much butter fat in the milk that we had a time the minute we took them out to brine. We had a time.
Okay, let's get into that now. I just here the other day we was talking that time means like bandaging.
Bandaging, that's right. Yeah.
And, which is like a gauze, right?
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
say a gauze,
Yeah.
and it's about what, 5 inches, 4 inches?
I forget what it was. I think
Maybe
6 inches.
6
Yeah,
inches.
6 to 8 inches. Yeah, because it had to cover the whole
Side,
Yeah.
and then around the outside of the cheese to
Yeah.
keep the cheese from spreading out or flattening out.
Yeah, they just sort of press it together and put a little weight on it, and it would stick.
Well, then you must have a lot of cream then, right?
Oh yeah.
And what did you do with your cream?
Well, we had the creamery right across the road.
This is in Arthur, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
which is located where north of.
9 miles straight north on Highway 80 from Platteville
Okay.
toward Livingston
Right.
and Montford. Yeah, we had a butter maker, and we made 1 million pounds of butter about a year. And we had, I think Eustis had 9 trucks on the road, and it was Ted Reddy, Faye Dobson, Elm Rack. We had about 12 trucks on the road, and then they take turns cheese. Every day we had all cheese out because we didn't have room in the shelf.
Where did you ship your cheese?
We sold a lot of it to at that time to Triangle, and Fred Beziger was the cheese buyer.
Okay. Was Don Yonke in there yet, or?
No, we never really dealt with Yankee, and very little with the old Rudy Regetts, very little. And basically, most of our cheese we sold was to Borden's, but Triangle had the cheese at that time when we bought out Arthur, and that's where the cheese kept going.
Kind of leave it there.
Yeah.
Who was making cheese there before you?
Godfrey Friedley.
I just kind of trying to keep track of some of these names, you know, so we got a map out there at the cheese factory, the Norris letter, and people put it together so we always capture these names. Okay, now I'm going to add this to this, because coming from me, it sounds a little different than coming from you. But from what my knowledge is, and from what I heard around, you had beautiful cheese up there. You had really, which at that size factory, you people had a real good name. You know, but,
Well, Dad had a good name, you know, and he did a lot of the field work, and he had a way with farmers. He could go out and talk to these farmers. But what you got to understand is we had probably a list of 200 farmers that wanted to haul it out there. And so if you didn't want to clean up, straighten up, and give you a shot, go somewhere else.
there must have been a lot of milk in that area then.
Oh, terrible! A lot of milk. Yeah. We would. I'm guessing it, but I would dump sometimes 130 to 160,000 pounds a day in those days, and then we had the milk haulers pick up all the sweet cream from the little factories around.
Well, was the
And
butter?
there ain't nothing but sweet cream butter. I call ours the butter.
But I mean, the butter, you control the butter making also?
Well, to a point, but the butter maker, Paulie Burkhardt was his name. He would have been the boss. I mean, he was the boss, but that's what he was hired for.
But this was a cooperative between the butter and
the cheese, yeah.
And the cheese.
Mhm.
Well, now wait, what did you do with your whey then?
Well, we tried to haul it out like everybody else did, and the farmers used to put it, or the milk haulers would put it in. They had all big fat, 2-ton flatbed trucks at that time, and they would fill up anybody that wanted whey. They'd fill up the cans with whey, and we had a great big septic, our own septic situation. There was a huge outfit, but the state was down there taking pictures all the time and harassing me all the time. Dad and Mother went to Europe, and they never came back for 6 months on one excursion, and I was getting tired of it. And of course, Walters was our competitor, which is Borden's, and they were giving us a hassle all the time because we always paid more money. And so when Dad and Mother finally came home, I said to Dad, I've had it. I said, either we're going to build a couple bedrooms here for these people, they can just stay here, we'll feed them in the whole 9 yards. And that included Cletus Danchard. He was always there. And he'd even go on, he had a little putty scraper. Go down, and we had all tile floor, you know, and all tile walls, you know, and you go on the floor when we were working and scrape up any little curd and then put it in a jar. And then finally Mr. Tate, who was the head inspector in the state of Wisconsin, came down. He's a friend of my dad's. And he came down and he said, I hate to say this to you, Emil, he said, we've got a signed complaint from Walters Dairy that you people are short weighting your farmers on their milk weight. You can't pay that kind of money and not do it. And he was to come down there for about 10 days. And I dumped all the milk. I weighed and dumped all the milk. And because I either rejected it or took it. And but he had to stand there, and of course I only had my dumping milk can only held 500 pounds. And I never realized until then that I had that thing with numbers. And I could shut that valve off. We had, at that time, we had a lot of Davis boys, farmers. They had, at then already, they had like 1,500 pounds of milk, 1,200 pounds of milk, you know. maybe 1,800, I don't know, but anyhow, I'd have to weigh that 3 different times, but I could open the spigot, let so much out, dump her in, and never write any figures down, have it all calculated in my head and write it on the sheet. Well, anyhow, Mr. Tate was there, I think, either 7 to 10 days, and I wasn't a half a pound off one way or the other. We had it was just absolutely, he told my dad, he said he never saw anything like it, you know. But anyhow, so that wasn't the point, but what we were told when we went up there was that in June, July, and August we made none of the grinders, right? Well, while we were up there, our average tractor average grade was B.
You said, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you.
But it was through my dad. He went out and talked to the farmers, told them how he wanted it done, told them how what it was going to be, and if you didn't want to abide, no problem, find yourself another place to haul your milk. And we got all kinds of milk wanting to come in, you know, no problem.
It's kind of a nice situation, isn't it?
Yeah. So that worked.
Today, it's like the last fellow I just hit here, he got 7 trucks, and if you don't want it, I got 6 of them on the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just no problem. So we had no problem, but we made, we were very fortunate. We made a lot of cheese, we made a lot of good cheese there. And we didn't have a lot of grinders. I mean, it was amazing. Even at the first summer, we had a problem until we got things cleaned up from there on.
Well, it only takes so many, you get rid of the
Yeah.
ones that they're all the same.
Talking about Cletus Ganchett, so now the laws are getting a little stricter, you know, now all of a sudden we couldn't really say to the farmer, well, get the hell out of here, you know, so to speak. You had to have the state come in. So Cletus had to go out to this farmer. And Cletus, you know Cletus, don't you? And not to be derogatory or to in any way insinuate that I'm trying to belittle the man or make fun of him, but his head, he had a large head for his body. And Cletus knew that this guy was sort of rough, so he said to me I had to go with him. So I said, we got to wait until I get the cheese all made, then I said I can go. And so that was probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't know, till we went out to this farm. So, went out there, and the guy was there. It was in the summertime, of course. So we got into the milk house. Cletus started tearing things apart, and it was filthy. And so finally, that farmer was a very big fellow. The farmer, he was hot. The farmer was hot. And Cletus said, you know, he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, what surprises me is, he said, that your milk is so rotten and so full of bacteria that I'm surprised that it can't open the refrigerator door and walk right out and walk out of the house. And with that, this farmer took this Cletus like this, turned him like this, and he had those are 10-gallon cans, weren't they? Mm-hmm. These here, cream cans or whatever. And the lid was off of it, and he had him here like this, and he was trying to shove his head into that cream can. That's a fact. And I don't know what to do, see, and I got a hold of the guy, and I said, don't pay. I said, no. Well, then Cletus took this guy to court, of course, with the state. And the guy paid quite a fine in those days for that, and Cletus's head got banged up a little bit. And I'd like to laugh, because I thought he had it coming. You know, not because of what he had done, but because he had harassed us. So, but I think they were in cahoots with Walters and one thing and another. But that doesn't make any difference. But the guy got shut down by the state for 60 days. And then then he could haul his milk back there to Arthur. And it wasn't a week later, and the state shut him down again. And then I never heard about him again. But I don't think Cletus went out there anymore. They sent maybe an army out there because this guy was a brute.
I don't know. I had some dealings there with Cletus too, not in Ireland because we're in Illinois, but this one farmer, when he went to put the hammer through Peter's windshield. He seemed like I don't know, and I want to bring this up because to me, the state inspector was somebody that they never ever fired. They would just move.
It was a state job.
Yeah, they would move it, and I can see if they didn't back it up, because we had the same deal in Illinois, I mean, the state either has to back up some of these fellows that like to, anything is workable. There's times you have to be firm, but some of the things we won't go into right day either.
Well,
I've never heard anything real positive as far as.
Well, just going back though to Cletus, when he came there, that was the first plant that he came to on his job. He didn't know how to take a sediment test. I showed him how to take a sediment test. And so then when we got all done that day, I said to him, I said, can I ask you, what did you do? You know, before you got, I didn't know that this was his first time on the job. And he was an egg inspector for the Navy. But he got this job. But he didn't know how to take a sediment test.
Well, that happens with federal foods and drugs and.
I think so,
Yeah,
you know.
They haven't come over there and never been into a factory before. And most of them are amiable enough that you understand, they're willing to learn, and it's sometimes kind of a joke. We had one not too long ago, we wanted to know why some cows were black or not, because they had some mixed herds there, the black cows, I mean, there's no difference between beef and dairy.
But anyhow, I just want to finish this. So we had trouble with the state on the weight, when you asked about the weight. So then we bought an insulated beer tank, storage tank, that they aged beer down here at the brewery. And I hooked up a steam pipe from the boiler to the beer vat. We pumped the whey in there, and then I boiled it or heated it. And at that time, we were the first ones to sell whey to Borden's up to Boscobel, and they made baby food, candy, and plastic out of it. And the lower the acidity, the more money we got. And they used to pull in there with 2 big tankers every day.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
One of the pioneers in selling whey.
Yeah, yeah. And that ended it with our problems with the state and polluting the water.
Okay, from there you went to Warren. Can we capture that within a couple of sentences? You made cheese down there for, what, 2 years?
I would say 3 years.
And that's where you bought the milk, right?
Yep, we bought the milk. We leased a plant from John Booten, senior and junior. And I'm not just sure, but I think we probably made as high as 17 wheels there a day. And then when the Swiss market there in the 50s, and it was the cheese industry we weren't doing so well in the sense because of price. We made cheddar and that type of thing. And then we sold out to the Grav boys.
So
France and Otto, I think.
So that kind of terminated your cheese business in the dairy.
Well, then Dad retired again. And then I bought a plant in Balsam Lake, Fox Creek.
I'm going to stop here. I forgot about that. Now we're going to have to stop here, and I'm going to turn this thing over to another site. All right? I forgot about Rice Lake. God. Well, Paul, we were talking about Warren here, and turn this tape over here. And what did you find difference between the Illinois milk and the Wisconsin milk?
Nothing really.
Not too much difference.
Further down the line, when Dad was down here at the Advance, our factory average test for the year round was 3.2. But some of the boys, of course, were stopping at the creek and putting water in the milk too. Wasn't want to fish.
No, I mean from Warren coming from that 4.4 test down with average, or was the quality milk the same around the Warren, Illinois area there as it was up at Arthur?
I would say yes. Yes, pretty much. Your quality was, you had good and bad and mediocre, I suppose. But there again, we tried to, work with the farmers and get them to clean their equipment better and that type of thing. Of course, now we're into can washers, had been already up at Arthur, of course, but the main thing there was is that the can washer was operating properly to clean your cans, your milk cans. Because now all of a sudden a lot of farmers weren't hauling away anymore. And then at Warren we had a weigh tank built right into the platform or the base of the milk truck.
You haul the way out.
We hauled it way out, and farmers wanted whey, and we had too much whey. Then if they had a lot of hogs, in the afternoon when we got done at Warren, we'd haul whey out to Sammy Dover, Fay, Tisher, some of those people that have a lot of hogs, just to get rid of them.
That was a new thing, where you put the weigh tank right on the truck and the cans behind the bubble. And sometimes the weigh tanks would leak.
And I just talking about Warren, then all of a sudden I don't know if you remember, Johnny, but all of a sudden we couldn't cross that bridge, coming down from the Apple River Canyon. And so then, because of the weight, we were double decking the cans. And so if we'd have had to turn around and go back, I think we're looking at 13 extra miles, make a reverse trip around. So I put a lock rear end in the trucks. And I just see those people that come roaring down that hill, and of course I'd be downshifting, right? When I was driving the truck anyhow, I didn't know I could drive the truck, but if it was me that was hauling the milk, I come down over that old hill and over them flint rock, and come down there and come down around the curve down there, and then the people in the summertime, in spring and summer, late fall, there's a lot of people there from Chicago and all over, and I'd come down there, and all of a sudden I'd just veer away from that bridge and right down to, what do you call that creek down, or that river? Apple River?
Clear Creek.
Yeah, and that,
that's the Apple River there.
That whirlpool thing is just down the line there. And I'd come down there with that truck, and I'd come right down over the bank, and right up over the bank, and right up back on the other side of the bridge on the road, and up the road I'd go. And we used to have to laugh, because I don't know what they thought what was going to happen to us, but it was, the water was maybe, 2 feet deep there or something, but those trucks were pretty high up.
Well, maybe we shouldn't say this, but they told me that you guys had the fastest milk trucks on the routes.
I just had, I don't know if I'm saying, McGinnis, that had the farm out there by, coming south of Guthrie Rufenack farm there.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side.
Farm,
Yeah, okay, anyhow, he just stopped to see me here just the other day, and he was talking about that. He was talking about that. I used to pick up the milk and come down through there, throw them on the truck, and away we go.
All right, now let's go up to Balsam Lake there. When you leave Warren, you went up to Balsam Lake, Price Lake. Where did you buy out there?
John Gertner.
And what kind of area was that now?
Oh, that was something else. They don't farm up there like they do here.
At this time, at that time.
Yeah.
Let's go into that a little bit. Most of everything was done by hand, right?
Yeah, I even fired the boiler by hand. Made 17, made 8.5 wheels, then 8.5 wheels, making all wireless up there, making squares. Made about 17 to 18 squares a day, and made a very poor product. You couldn't, those farmers, they never got mad. And if they were making hay today, and somebody said, while I were biting, shut it right down, leave everything shut, and away they'd go. Wouldn't come back, and then they'd invite you over and have fresh fish or something. But I liked it up there, but I couldn't make a decent product. I didn't feel. It wasn't in the books.
Were there a lot of factories up in there, Swiss factories?
Yeah, John had that a nice plant up there at Comstock. Comstock. Yeah, there were a lot of plants around the area. What happened to me is that we had a fella. I was just up there, and I was going to Red Wing, the casino. And I said, I'm going to go up Turtle Lake, and then I'm going to go over to Balsam Lake, and I want to see what's going on. See if I remember what went on over there. But anyhow, what happened is I furnished all the butter, and I financed the whole deal to the farmers. All their pads. I even tested the milk. I'm my own milk tester up there, the butter fat. And of course, with the Rhine list, there wasn't that much hard work. I mean, the cellar work was cut way down. And but anyhow, what happened was the secretary of the co-op was handling the money, and I had a check. I just forget what month, but it was one of the bigger months, and it was like for $21,800. When I got my check, I went to the bank, and there wasn't any money there. Check bounced. And the farmers owed me all this money, but no check bounced. There was no way, see. And so I called the state in. The state closed the plant down. So that's how that ended. Except I had to pay. I had to pay Wittricks. We were getting their butter and a lot of our stuff. I ended up having to pay them back because I had bought it from them and I sold it to farmers. But when the farmers didn't get their money, they couldn't pay me either. Then now all of a sudden the plant burned down. We all of a sudden had a fire.
But you weren't there.
It's like the Jewish fellow that owned the Chevrolet garage over in Darlington. He went out to California and said to his brother, how's it been? Well, he said, I just had a flood. And his brother said, how do you start a flood?
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever, your dad one time was saying you did again kind of disagreement with the farmer with the test down there at Headman's, or you don't remember?
Yeah, I don't want to mention names because the family still living around here, but we knew what was going on, and to be real honest about it is Ed Dahlman he was a state tester, a certified tester to test the milk, and then the farmers would come in and raise hell about their tests, see? And Dad would say, well, here's the sample. Take it and have it tested somewhere else. They want to have it tested. That's what it would be, see. But what actually happened is that in the wintertime, when they didn't have so much milk, Dad would always give them more tests. In the summertime, give them more tests than they had, and then he'd take it away from them in the winter. And that sort of eliminated any problems. It sort of balanced, so just to keep them satisfied. See. But then I'd like to go back to Warren, and whatchamacallit, he's dead now. Hazel, what was Hazel's lady? Gilbert. Harold Gilbert came in one day to the factory, and he was hot. He says, "You're cheating me on my milk." Wait. I said, why do you say that, Harold? He says, I had kissed them away this morning. And they had a scale hanging from the barn beam. Kiss them savage. So I said, well, let's go and take a look. And I said, you got your total amount of milk that you got from, that you added up? Yep. I go, don't you? I said, I don't want to see it. But I said, let's go back. And, where you had your intake and the can of washing. I said, let's go back and see what we've got down there. And I just forget what the amount was. But I think Harold had over 1,000 pounds of milk a day, see. Maybe 1,300. But anyhow, I said to Harold, I said, well, here's what we got. I'll just use a figure. I said, 1,330 pounds. Harold looked up at me. testimony had less than 1,000 pounds. Now I said, I said, do you want this weight or do you want this weight?
Yeah.
And that ended it.
Okay, Paul, I want to thank you for coming, and I want to add this here too, that we had a couple of fellows from Craft, this Dan Ripley. And of course, you know, and I know throughout the ages there was an awful lot of irate farmers. And I think he put it well when he said when the bulk tank operator came along and starts picking up the milk, he can see his weight, he can see his test taken, sample, and he can take a sample himself, go and stir it up, and it removed a lot of doubt.
Mhm.
And I want to end up this conversation saying this, and I've said it many times. If God would have made all those animals test the same, he'd have saved one lot of arguments.
That's right, that's right. Yeah.
And thank you for coming.
Yeah, yeah, well, I do want to say this, but all these things that I've told you, that all that credit really goes to my folks, you know. I mean, they're the ones, because if it wouldn't have been for them, I wouldn't have been, so to speak, you know.
I think all of us, the heritage goes back.
Yeah, and
we're proud of it.
That's right, and I could have gotten a cheese factory, but never could I gotten a cheese factory of that size and made the money that we made. If it wouldn't have been because of my folks. So it really goes all back to them, and they had the money to do it.
Well, thanks again.